1.5 tons of live weight. That is exactly how much an adult male walrus weighs, the one currently lying on an ice floe 300 meters from us. 1,500 kilograms of meat, fat, bones, and hide that can feed an entire village of 200 people for 3 months. But harvesting this animal is nothing like going to the store for groceries. A walrus is dangerous, aggressive, weighs as much as a passenger car, has tusks 1 meter long that can pierce a boat clean through. A single blow from a flipper can kill a person. One mistake during the hunt, and you will not return home. That is precisely why I am standing now on the edge of an icy cliff, alongside a hunting crew of 8 Inuit who are preparing for the most dangerous hunt in the Arctic. 3 o'clock in the morning. The settlement of Ivujivik in northern Quebec sleeps under the cover of polar night. The temperature is -42 degrees. Wind at 15 meters per second, turning it into a wind chill of -60. But in the house of hunting crew captain Tomasi, the light is already on. The team is gathering here. 8 men ranging in age from 24 to 68. Tomasi, the captain, is 56. He has been hunting walruses for 43 years. His sons Lukasi and Yoni are 32 and 28. Brothers Apik and Nunak, both over 40, are the best marksmen in the settlement. Old Atat, 68 years old, no longer shoots, but knows walrus behavior better than anyone alive. Young Kuvak, 24 years old, is on his 7th walrus hunt. And me, a white man from the south, whom Tomasi agreed to take along as an observer after lengthy persuasion and promises to follow every order without question. The first thing the team does is pray. Everyone stands in a circle. Atat speaks words in Inuktitut, the ancient language of the Inuit.
I do not understand the words, but I feel the meaning. A request to the spirits for a safe hunt. Gratitude to the walrus in advance for allowing itself to be taken. A promise to use every part of its body with respect. This is not merely a ritual. It is the foundation of Inuit hunting, what distinguishes it from the simple killing of animals. After the prayer, the equipment check begins, and here I see how seriously they take preparation. Every detail is checked 3 times, because out on the ice, hundreds of kilometers from help, a forgotten rope or a dull knife can cost a life. Weapons: 3 large caliber rifles, 308 Winchester Magnum. Each bullet weighs 22 grams, travels at 900 meters per second, and carries 7,000 joules of energy. That is enough to penetrate a walrus skull 8 centimeters thick and reach the brain. Tomasi checks each rifle personally. The bolt operates smoothly. The scope is set correctly. The barrels are clean. 30 rounds of ammunition are packed in a waterproof container. Harpoons. 2 large harpoons with metal tips and detachable shafts. The tips have barbs that open inside the animal's body, preventing it from breaking free. Attached to each tip is a rope 3 centimeters thick, 200 meters long, capable of withstanding a load of 5 tons. Tied to the end of the rope are floats made from inflated seal skins, each the size of a large ball. Knives. Each hunter has his own knife, the blade 40 to 50 centimeters long, sharpened to razor sharpness. Atat checks the sharpness of each knife by running a single hair along the blade. If the hair does not cut, the knife needs more sharpening. A walrus has a hide 4 centimeters thick. It can only be cut with a very sharp knife. Hooks and ropes. Special metal hooks on long poles for latching onto the walrus. Ropes made of synthetic material that do not freeze and do not lose strength in the cold. Blocks and winches for hauling the carcass onto the ice, because 1.5 tons of dead weight cannot be lifted by hand. The umiak, the traditional Inuit boat, sits on a sled by the house. It is a work of art and engineering at the same time. A frame of whale bones and wood,
covered with walrus hides sewn together with sinew. 9 meters long, 2.5 meters wide, weighing about 400 kilograms. It can carry a load of 3 tons while remaining light enough for 8 men to carry on their shoulders. Tomasi walks around the boat's perimeter, checking every seam, every joint. The hides are stretched taut, the seams coated with seal fat for waterproofing. The slightest leak in icy water could lead to catastrophe. Everything is in order, he nods. This boat has served our family for 20 years. My great-grandfather built it. Sewn properly, it will serve another 20.
Emergency gear is packed into waterproof bags. Spare clothing, sleeping bags, a tent, a camp stove, kerosene, a 5-day food supply, signal flares, a satellite phone. If something goes wrong, if the boat capsizes or the ice splits, this equipment can save lives. Each hunter's clothing is a subject in itself. Layer upon layer, synthetic thermal underwear, a wool shirt, a fleece pullover, a traditional caribou parka with the fur turned inward, an outer parka of sealskin with a hood trimmed in wolverine fur. On the feet, kamiks of ringed sealskin, lined inside with hare fur, and over them gaiters reaching to the knees. On the hands, chamois gloves with bear fur mittens over them. All of this weighs about 20 kilograms, but without it, one cannot survive in the cold. By 5 o'clock in the morning, everything is ready. The gear is loaded onto large sleds hitched behind 2 snowmobiles. The umiak is placed on a special sled and strapped down. The men take their positions. 4 on the snowmobiles, 4 in the sleds. I sit in a sled next to old Atat, who will narrate the hunting process for me. The procession sets off into darkness and cold. The snowmobile headlights carve a narrow strip of snow out of the blackness ahead. We head north, toward the ocean, toward the place where other hunters reported seeing a herd of walruses on an ice floe 3 days ago. The distance is 40 kilometers, but over rough ice, in the dark, it will take 3 hours. As we ride, Atat tells me about the walrus and why this hunt is so important for the village's survival. A Pacific walrus, a male, can weigh up to 2 tons, he says, shouting over the roar of the engines. Females are smaller, about 1 ton. We hunt males, we leave the females for breeding. One walrus yields about 1,000 kilograms of meat, 300 kilograms of fat, 150 kilograms of bones, and an enormous hide. Walrus meat feeds the village for months, he continues. We divide it equally among all families. 200 people in the village, 1,000 kilograms of meat. That is 5 kilograms per person. A family of 5 receives 25 kilograms. That is food for 2 weeks. Plus fat for heating and cooking, hide for boats, bones for tools. But the walrus is dangerous, he warns, and his face turns serious. I have seen a walrus pierce a boat with its tusk. It sank in a minute. I have seen a walrus strike a hunter with its flipper, breaking his ribs, puncturing his lung. I have seen a walrus drag a man underwater because he tied the harpoon line wrong, wrapped it around his hand. They found the body a week later, frozen to the ice. That is why we hunt as a group, never alone, he explains. One shoots, the others provide cover. One harpoons, the others hold the rope. One approaches the dead walrus, the others stand ready to shoot again in case it is still alive. Everyone watches out for each other, because the walrus kills those who lose focus even for a second. After 3 hours of riding, a faint gray glow appears ahead, the first sign of approaching dawn, although the sun will not rise above the horizon for another month. We reach the edge of the fast ice, the shore-bound ice. Beyond it begins the pack ice, drifting floes with open water between them. This is where walruses live. This is where we will search for them. Tomasi stops the snowmobiles,
Everyone dismounts and begins scanning the ice conditions through binoculars. We look for signs of walruses, dark patches on white floes, plumes of exhaled steam, the characteristic bellowing that can be heard for kilometers. Several minutes of silence, only the wind whistling. "Over there," Lucasi says suddenly, pointing to the northeast. "See, on that big floe, the dark patches?" Everyone swings their binoculars. Indeed, on a floe about a kilometer from us, dark brown humps are visible. We count. 1, 3, 5, 8, 10. An entire herd. Tomasi studies them for a long time, assessing the situation. 10 walruses, he says. Most are females and juveniles, but there are 2 large males on the edges. See? Their tusks are longer, their bodies more massive. We need 1 male. The one on the left, he is bigger, roughly 1.5 tons. The hunting plan is discussed in quiet voices. We will approach in the umiak from the downwind side so they do not catch our scent. At a distance of 150 meters, Apik fires the rifle, aiming at the head, behind the ear where the skull is thinner. If the shot is accurate, the walrus will die instantly. If it is a miss or the walrus is only wounded, Nunak fires a second shot. Then we harpoon quickly to prevent it from going underwater. Dead walruses sink. If the walrus falls into the water, Tomasi continues, the floats will keep it from sinking deep. We will haul it by rope to the edge of the floe, hook it with gaffs, and lift it onto the ice with winches. If it falls on the floe, it is simpler. We just butcher it on the spot, load it onto the sleds, and take it to the village. Everyone nods, understanding their roles. This is not their first hunt. Each has done it dozens of times. But every time it is dangerous. Every time something can go wrong. "Check the equipment one last time," says Tomasi. "Weapons, harpoons, ropes, knives. Everything in place?" Everyone confirms. The umiak is taken off the sled. 8 men lift it onto their shoulders. We carry it to the water's edge where an open channel about 30 meters wide runs between the floes. We lower the boat into the water. It sinks a few centimeters, but the hides hold, not letting a single drop through. Everyone jumps in. Tomasi at the stern with the steering oar, Apik and Nunak in the middle with rifles, the rest on oars along the sides. I sit at the bow, trying not to get in the way. I have been strictly forbidden to move without a command, to speak or to stand. Any unnecessary movement could startle the walruses or upset the balance of the boat. "Row," Tomasi commands quietly. The oars dip into the water in unison. The boat glides forward almost silently. The water is black, oily calm, its temperature -1.5 degrees. If you fall in, you have about 3 minutes before you lose consciousness from the cold, says Atat, sitting beside me. So hold on tight and do not lean over the side. We paddle between floes, skirt pressure ridges, and move toward the target. The distance shrinks. 800 meters, 600, 400. The walruses are still on the floe, lying in a heap. Some are sleeping, some are scratching each other with their tusks. They do not see us. The boat is low, blending with the water and ice. 300 meters, 250. Apik slowly raises the rifle, resting the barrel on the gunwale for stability. He shoulders it, finds the left male in the scope, the big one, with tusks nearly a meter long. He aims behind the ear, where the skull is thinner, where a single bullet will reach the brain. 200 meters. The boat freezes. The oars are motionless. Apik holds his breath. His finger settles on the trigger. A second of aiming. The shot. The sound splits the silence. The echo bounces off the ice ridges. The bullet covers 200 meters in a quarter of a second, enters the walrus's head precisely behind the ear, pierces the bone. destroys the brain. The walrus does not even flinch. It simply goes limp, its head dropping onto the ice. Instantaneous death. The remaining walruses erupt in panic, bellowing, snorting, and roaring intensified tenfold. Enormous bodies begin to move, crawling toward the edge of the flow. Some tumble into the water with a loud splash, diving under the ice, vanishing.
Others remain confused, unable to tell where the danger is coming from.
"Row fast," Tomasi commands. "We need to reach the killed walrus and harpoon it before it slides into the water."
Oars strike the water. The boat surges forward. 150 meters, 100, 70. Lukasi stands at the bow with the harpoon at the ready. 50 meters to the flow. The walrus lies at the edge, motionless. Blood flows from the wound behind the ear. 20 meters. The boat pulls up right against the flow. Lukasi winds up and hurls the harpoon with all his strength. The tip flies 5 meters, enters the walrus's body near the shoulder. The barbs open inside and lock in place. The rope goes taut.
"Got it!"
Lukasi shouts. The floats are quickly tied to the end of the rope and tossed into the water. Now, even if the walrus slides into the water, we will not lose it, Atat explains. The floats hold it. They will not let it sink. We can haul it in by the rope, but the walrus lies on the flow, unmoving. Tomasi carefully brings the boat closer. Apik and Nuna keep their rifles ready, in case the walrus is still alive, only wounded. But the walrus is dead. That is obvious. Its eyes are glazed. There is no breathing. The blood has stopped flowing.
"Good shot," says Tomasi, clapping Apik on the shoulder. "Clean work. A quick death. That is how it should be. Respect for the animal begins with a swift death without suffering. Now the carcass needs to be hauled fully onto the ice, otherwise butchering is impossible. But 1.5 tons of dead weight cannot be lifted by hand, so blocks and winches are used. A block and tackle system is set up at the edge of the flow, anchored with ice screws driven deep into the ice. Ropes are wrapped around the walrus carcass and attached to the blocks. 6 men take their places at the winch handles and begin to crank. Slowly, with the screech of metal on metal, the carcass begins to move, rising onto the ice.
Centimeter by centimeter. The work is grueling, demanding enormous effort.
Sweat pours in streams despite the cold. After 40 minutes, the entire carcass is on the ice, lying 5 meters from the water's edge. Everyone collapses onto the ice, breathing hard, resting. Hands tremble from the strain. Backs ache. But the hardest part is behind them. The walrus has been taken and safely hauled onto the ice. Now the butchering begins. But first, perdition. Atat approaches the dead walrus, takes out a flask of fresh water, and drips a few drops into the animal's slightly open mouth. "We give the walrus water to drink," he explains. "Seawater is salty. The walrus drank salt water all its life. After death, its spirit wants fresh water. We give it, showing respect." Then he speaks words of gratitude in Inuktitut, quietly, almost in a whisper. He thanks the spirit of the walrus for allowing itself to be taken, for giving its life so that people may live.
He promises to use every part of the body with respect, to discard nothing. He asks forgiveness for having had to kill. These are not just words, he tells me afterward. This is a contract between hunter and animal. We take a life, but in return we give respect, gratitude, a promise not to squander the gift. If you hunt without this respect, only for money or sport, the animals will leave, and we will all starve to death. Butchering a walrus on the ice at -42 is work that demands incredible skill, strength, and speed.
1.5 tons of carcass must be processed during the light hours before the next cycle of darkness begins. The work must be fast, yet careful, so as not to ruin valuable parts. Tomasi makes the first cut along the belly, from throat to tail. The knife is enormous, the blade 50 centimeters, but even with it, cutting through hide 4 centimeters thick is difficult. He saws, presses down with all his weight, slowly carving the line. The cut reveals a thick layer of subcutaneous fat, yellowish white, 20 to 25 centimeters thick. Fat is the walrus's greatest treasure, says Tomasi, beginning to separate it from the meat in slabs. Walrus fat is the most calorie-dense of all animal fats, nearly 10,000 calories per kilogram. 100 grams of fat provides 1,000 calories of pure energy. In the cold, it is the best fuel for a human being. The fat is cut away in enormous slabs, each the size of a door, weighing 30 to 40 kilograms. Lukasi and Yoni work together, pulling back the edge of the fat while Tomasi cuts underneath, separating it from the muscle layer. The slabs are stacked in a huge pile on the ice and quickly freeze to a stone-like state. In total, a walrus yields about 300 kilograms of pure fat, Atat explains, watching the work. Of that, 100 kilograms will go to heating homes. We burn fat in our stoves. It burns long and hot. 100 kilograms for cooking. We fry meat and fish in it, make traditional dishes. 100 kilograms for eating raw and boiled, a source of energy and vitamins. Beneath the fat, the meat is revealed. Dark red, almost brown. Walrus meat is dense, tough, with a strong, distinctive smell. Walrus meat is not as tender as seal meat, Tomasi warns, carving out large pieces. It is rather tough, requiring long boiling or stewing. But it is very nutritious, high in protein and iron. We make soups, make sausage, dry it for storage. The meat is separated from the bones methodically, muscle group by muscle group. Shoulder muscles, chest muscles, back muscles, gluteal muscles. Each group is set aside separately because each has a different use. Tender meat for roasting, tough meat for broths, very tough meat for dog food. Special attention is given to the internal organs. Tomasi opens the abdominal cavity and carefully extracts the liver. Enormous, weighing about 25 kilograms, dark brown. Walrus liver is extremely rich in vitamin A, he explains. So rich that you cannot eat more than 100 grams a day or you risk poisoning. But those 100 grams provide a week's supply of the vitamin. The heart is extracted next. Massive, the size of a soccer ball, weighing about 10 kilograms. The heart is considered a delicacy, says Atat. Tender, delicious, full of beneficial substances. Usually we divide it among all the hunters, a piece for each, as a sign of respect for the labor and the risk. The lungs are enormous, each the size of a large pillow. They allow the walrus to dive to a depth of 80 meters and hold its breath for 20 minutes, Lukasi explains. The lungs usually go to feed the dogs, or we boil them for broth. Very nutritious broth it makes. The stomach is opened and its contents examined. Inside are thousands of mollusk shells on which the walrus fed. From the contents you can tell where it was feeding and at what depth, Nunak explains. This one was eating at a depth of about 40 to 50 meters. See, these are deep water mollusks. The intestines are extracted in long loops and rinsed in seawater right on the spot. From the intestines we make waterproof clothing, says Yuni. We clean them, dry them, inflate them, and they become large, translucent sheets. We sew them into raincoats, lightweight, completely waterproof. Special attention goes to the tusks, the walrus's ivory. They protrude from the upper jaw, curved, white, each about 80 centimeters long and weighing 4 to 5 kilograms. Tomasi carefully cuts them out along with part of the jawbone so as not to damage the root. Walrus tusks are traditionally the most valuable part, he explains. Walrus ivory is used for carving, ornaments, and tools. A single tusk can be worth several $1,000s if sold.
But we do not sell them. It is forbidden by law, and besides, it would be wrong. The tusks stay in the village, passed on to master carvers who create traditional works. The hide is removed in large sections. It is heavy work. The hide is 4 centimeters thick and weighs about 150 kilograms by itself. Apik and Nunak pull back the edge of the hide while Tomasi cuts underneath, separating it from the muscles. The work proceeds slowly, with sweat, despite the cold. Walrus hide is the strongest of any Arctic animal, says Atat. 3 times stronger than seal hide, 5 times stronger than caribou hide. From it, we make the covering for umiaks, our boats. 1 walrus hide covers a boat 9 meters long. We also make boot soles from it, the most durable kind, lasting for years. The bones are extracted with particular care. The skull is massive, weighing about 30 kilograms. The vertebrae are as thick as an arm. The ribs are 1 to 1.5 meters long. Walrus bones are very hard and dense, Tomasi explains. From them we make sled runners, tool handles, harpoon parts. A single walrus bone serves as a tool for decades. Special attention goes to the baculum, the penile bone, which in walruses reaches a length of 60 centimeters and a thickness of 3 centimeters. It is the strongest bone in the walrus's body, Lucasi explains. From it, we make handles for the heaviest tools. It is also considered a powerful amulet. After 6 hours of continuous work, the butchering is complete. What was a single animal has now become neatly arranged parts. 300 kilograms of fat, 700 kilograms of meat, 200 kilograms of bones, 150 kilograms of hide, 50 kilograms of organs, plus tusks, intestines, and sinew. The total weight of usable product is about 1,400 kilograms. There is virtually no waste, only the stomach and intestinal contents, which are left on the ice. The gulls, Arctic foxes, and polar bears will eat it, says Atat. Nothing is wasted in nature. Everything returns to the circle. Now all of this needs to be loaded onto the sleds and delivered to the village. The snowmobiles are brought up to the butchering site. Large wooden sleds, each 4 meters long, 2 meters wide, capable of carrying loads up to a ton. The loading is strategic. The heaviest pieces of meat go on the bottom, lighter parts on top, everything lashed down with ropes crisscrossed. One sled won't carry everything, says Tomasi. It will take 3 trips. The first trip carries the most valuable: meat, fat, organs. The second trip carries bones and hide. The third trip carries the rest. Each round trip takes 4 hours. That means 12 hours of work ahead. The first load departs for the village. 2 snowmobiles pull the sleds, loaded to the brim. 4 hunters ride with them. 4 stay behind to guard the remaining parts and prepare the second load. I stay with those who wait. We sit on the ice, drinking hot tea from thermoses, eating dried meat. Atat tells the story of the most dangerous walrus hunt of his life, 50 years ago. I was young, 20 years old, my second walrus hunt, he says. We harpooned a male, thought he was dead, approached close in the boat. But the walrus was only wounded, came to, and attacked the boat. He punctured the gunwale with his tusk, water rushed in. The boat began to sink. We rowed with all our might toward the nearest ice floe, barely managed to climb out. The walrus pursued us, roaring, trying to overturn the ice floe. We shot, hit him 3 more times, finally killed him. But the boat sank. We lost our gear. We walked 30 kilometers to the village on foot. 2 of us got frostbite.
Since then, I always check whether the walrus is truly dead before approaching close, he concludes. I fire an additional shot to the head, even if it seems already dead.
Better to spend an extra cartridge than to lose a life. After 4 hours, the snowmobiles return for the second load. The hunters are tired, but satisfied. In the village, they have already begun dividing it among the families, Lucasi reports. People are rejoicing, giving thanks. 3 months of meat for everyone, supplies replenished. Children run around laughing. Women are cooking the first soup from fresh walrus meat. The second load is packed. Bones, hide, remaining meat. Another 4 hours of driving there and back. I ride along on this trip, wanting to see how the village receives the harvest. We ride into the settlement in the evening. All 23 houses are lit up. People are out in the streets despite the frost. They greet us like heroes. Elders come out, inspect the harvest, nod approvingly. Women approach, thanking the hunters. Children gaze in awe at the enormous pieces of meat. The sleds pull up to the community house, a large building in the center of the settlement. This is where the butchering and distribution will take place. Meat and fat are unloaded onto large tables laid out on the snow in front of the building. Tomasi, as the brigade captain, oversees the distribution. First to the spirits, he says, cutting off a small piece of meat and fat. He places it on a special stone by the entrance to the community house, speaking words of gratitude in Inuktitut. This is an old tradition, Atat explains. We give part of the harvest to the spirits, thank them for a successful hunt, ask for good fortune in the future. Then to the hunters, Tomasi continues. Each hunter who participated in the hunt receives a large share. Choice meat, the best fat, portions of organs. This is fair. They risked their lives, spent their strength, earned the best. The walrus heart is cut into 8 equal parts, 1 for each hunter. The liver is divided between the hunters and the village elders, because vitamin A is especially important for elderly people. The tusks are given to the oldest carver in the village, a master of bone carving, who will make traditional pieces from them. Then families by size, Tomasi continues. In the village there are 200 people, that is 40 families on average. 1,000 kilograms of meat and 300 of fat for 40 families. Each family receives 25 kilograms of meat and 7 to 8 kilograms of fat. Families come up in turn, the eldest first. Each is given their share, wrapped in clean cloth, tied with rope. Elders receive a bit more, young families with children as well. Elderly people living alone and widows receive a full share free of charge. This is the community's obligation. People haul the meat on small sleds, on their shoulders, however they can. At each house, the processing begins. Somewhere meat is being cut into pieces for freezing. Somewhere fat is being rendered in pots. Somewhere bones are set aside for broth. Somewhere pieces of hide are being stretched for tanning. By midnight, the main distribution is complete. About 100 kilograms of meat and fat remain, which are set aside in the community freezer for emergencies. If someone runs out of food in winter, if someone falls ill and cannot hunt, this reserve will help. Tomasi invites the entire hunting brigade and me to his house for dinner. His wife, Anna, has been cooking all evening. Walrus meat soup, boiled heart, fried liver, fresh muktuk made from walrus fat with skin. The tables are groaning with food. Family and friends gather together. Hunters, their wives, children, elders. 25 people in all in a small house. They eat, laugh, tell stories about the hunt. Atat tells about Apik's shot today, how precise it was. Apik is modest, says he was simply lucky. There was no wind. But everyone knows it is not luck, it is skill, Atat continues. Apik has been practicing shooting since childhood, knows his rifle like his own hand. He can hit a coin at a distance of 200 meters,
That is why the walrus died instantly, without suffering. That is a proper hunt. After dinner, Tomasi brings out an old carved bone walrus figurine, made by his grandfather 70 years ago. He hands it to a pick. "This is for you, for an excellent shot," he says. "It is our family's tradition. After every successful walrus hunt, the best marksman receives a carved figurine. Keep it. Pass it to your son when he becomes a hunter." A pick takes the figurine with both hands, gives thanks, clearly moved. "This is a great honor," Atat whispers to me. "Such figurines are kept in families for generations. This is history. This is the memory of great hunters of the past." The next day I walk around the village, observing how families process their shares of walrus. In every house there is activity. Somewhere fat is being rendered in large vats. Somewhere meat is being cut for drying. Somewhere bones are being boiled for broth. Somewhere pieces of hide are being stretched for tanning. I stop by the house of Apik's family. His wife Nina shows me how to properly prepare muktuk from walrus fat. A piece of fat with skin is taken and cut into cubes 3 by 3 centimeters. The cubes are boiled in salted water for 10 minutes, then cooled. The result is a translucent, jelly-like product with resilient black skin on top. Muktuk is eaten raw or boiled, she explains. It is a source of all vitamins, especially vitamin C and D. Our ancestors ate only muktuk and meat all winter, never knew scurvy, were healthy. Modern doctors are amazed at how one can be healthy without vegetables and fruit. But muktuk has everything. In the house of the elder Atat, his daughter is working on tanning the walrus hide. The hide is stretched on a large wooden frame secured with bone pegs. With a special scraper made of bone, she scrapes the remaining fat and meat from the inner side. "This is long work," she explains. "One piece of hide takes a week to process. First we scrape, then we soak it in a special solution of animal brains and water, then we stretch and dry it. The result is soft, strong leather. From it we will later sew a covering for a new boat." In the community house, the master carver Kuvak has begun working on the walrus tusks. He sits by the window, holding a tusk in one hand, a small, sharp chisel in the other. Slowly, carefully, he carves a traditional design, a walrus hunting scene. "This will take months," he says, not lifting his eyes from the work. One tusk fully covered in carving requires 300 to 400 hours of work. But when I finish, it will be a work of art, telling the story of our people, our hunt, our connection with the animals. On the evening of the third day, a feast of gratitude to the walrus is held in the community house. The entire village gathers together. Elders give speeches, thanking the hunters for their labor and risk, thanking the walrus for allowing itself to be taken, thanking the spirits for luck and safety. Then dances, traditional Inuit drum dances. A large drum made of walrus hide on a wooden frame beats the rhythm. Dancers in traditional parkas move in time, depicting the hunt, searching for the walrus, stalking, the shot, the butchering. Children watch, learn, remember. I sit in the corner, observing, writing. I understand that I have witnessed something ancient, fundamental. Walrus hunting is not simply obtaining meat. It is a ritual that binds the community together. It is the transmission of knowledge from elders to the young. It is respect for nature, for animals, for the cycles of life and death. In the modern world, where meat is bought in a supermarket, wrapped in plastic, where the connection between food and animal is severed, such a hunt seems savage, cruel. But having spent a week with the Inuit, I understand. This is not cruelty. This is survival with dignity, with respect, with gratitude. The Inuit do not kill walruses for sport or trophies. They harvest exactly as much as the village needs for sustenance. They use every part of the animal down to the last gram. They thank the spirit for its sacrifice. They share the harvest with everyone, including those who could not hunt. This is a sustainable, respectful, spiritual connection with nature that modern civilization has lost. And as long as the Inuit preserve this connection, as long as they pass on the knowledge of hunting to the next generations, as long as they thank every walrus for the gift of life, their culture is alive. Their way of surviving in the Arctic does not simply work. It does so with honor, dignity, and deep respect for all forms of life. The next morning, I fly out of Ivujivik on a small airplane. Below, the endless white tundra drifts past, the frozen ocean, tiny dots of settlements. Somewhere down there, Tomasi's family continues processing the walrus, rendering fat, drying meat, tanning hide, passing knowledge on to the children, how to shoot accurately, how to butcher properly, how to thank the spirits. And this circle will continue. The children will grow up, become hunters, teach their own children. As long as there are walruses in the ocean, as long as there are Inuit who remember the traditions, this ancient dance of life and death, of hunter and prey, will go on. Harsh, dangerous, but full of respect, gratitude, and the wisdom of millennia.